Welcome to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
This episode of Sports Spectrum is brought to you by Compassion International, the most trusted child development ministry in the world. For more information about how you can release a child from poverty, go to compassion.com/sportsspectrum. Pray about it. It's $38, tax deductible, and a great opportunity for you to provide a child in need with hope. Food, education, medical care, and vocational training, all done in Jesus' name. Go to compassion.com/sportsspectrum and sponsor a child today. Today on the podcast, we welcome Brandon Williams to the show. Brandon Williams is the Baltimore Ravens nose tackle, selected in the third round of the 2013 NFL Draft by Baltimore, 94th pick overall, out of Missouri Southern, D2 school. But Brandon was a stud at Missouri Southern, an All-American, and he shares his powerful story and his testimony here on this podcast. It's about as emotional of an interview as we've done here at Sports Spectrum, and I loved it. I love that Brandon was willing to show that emotion, to let his guard down a little bit and just go where God was going to take him. And you hear Brandon share that and get emotional when I ask him about his testimony. And his testimony has a lot of layers to it. It starts in college. He grew up in the church, and you hear him talk about a real poignant moment at Missouri Southern that changed his life forever, and then that rededication to God that so many of us have that happened early in his career in the NFL. Brandon in 2018 was a Pro Bowl selection, stud defensive tackle, got a contract extension with Baltimore in March of 2017, and now entering year 7 of the NFL as we get ready for the 2019 NFL season. Brandon will also be featured in the newest edition of Sports Spectrum magazine titled Defenders of the Faith. And we talked to Brandon a little bit about defending that faith, and you'll read more about that in the newest edition of Sports Spectrum magazine, which you can get at sportsspectrum.com. Let's listen to Brandon Williams, a very powerful, a very emotional conversation with the Baltimore Ravens nose tackle here on Sports Spectrum's podcast. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to talking to you and diving into your journey. And you're entering year 7 now as an NFL player.
Yes, sir. Yes, I am. Year 7.
But you're entering your first few weeks as a new daddy to your third child. And so I want to start there, just seeing on Instagram your beautiful little one born in early July, baby Rami. Tell me about that experience, Brandon, what that was like and becoming a dad again, but this time to a little girl.
Man, it was the most nerve-wracking, most beautiful, most amazing experience I've ever had. Just having 2 boys already, being a dad, being a boy dad, wrestling, hanging out and all that stuff, like pretty much tearing up the house. And now we have this girl, and we have this little beautiful bundle of joy. And now it's the daddy mode just totally switched from WWE running around the house craziness to just soft and sweet. I just melted, man. Like as soon as she came out, I saw her, I just melted my heart and my eyes, like just everything just lit up, and just love just shot out to her. It was a surreal experience. It's just seeing her every day, just seeing her smile, seeing her, giggle, cry, fart, whatever it is. I mean, it is just amazing. I don't know how in the world, I don't know how that I got so blessed, that we got so blessed, me and my wife got so blessed with a little baby girl that's just perfect.
Well, you timed it out right, because she was born in early July, and then the football season's here just a few weeks later.
7/8/19, actually.
7/8/19. There you go. Easy to remember, right? And so,
exactly.
As you get going here, and beginning your 7th year, tell me about where you are excitement level for this new year. You had your first Pro Bowl season last year, and lots of great things happening in your career now. You just turned 30, so you're not that young guy anymore. You're that veteran now. So tell me about getting ready for year 7 and just where you are in terms of being football ready for the season.
Year 7 to me, like this is going to be, I feel like for me, a big year. Just because I'm coming off the Pro Bowl season, having a good year last year, and just, having that taste of that Pro Bowl. I mean, I want to get there again, you just don't want to get there and then just be like a one-hit wonder. You want to have sustainability. So that's why I want, longevity in the NFL in the game. And I want to get back, also get more Pro Bowls, all pro teams and, Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the one thing you'd tell your 24-year-old self when you came in the league in 2013, the lesson that you've learned that now you're in year 7 of the NFL, you're like, man, this is what it's like, really how it works here?
I mean, it's a job. It's a business. Take care of your body because you are your moneymaker. That's the biggest thing. Also, just it's the little things in diet, and everything, just keeping your body, being the best professional you can. I mean, without me having Haloti Ngata or Chris Canty or, Marcus Spears or anyone like that, like it would have been tough to kind of navigate my way through that locker room because of the simple fact that just they expect so much out of you, me coming in as a rookie. But they definitely helped me. Biggest thing was, like I said, get underneath a big, awesome, professional, veteran guy and just be under his wing and just learn everything you can. Cause that's exactly what I did from Haloti and Chris Canty and Marcus Spears. Like all those guys, like they pretty much were my blueprint of how to become a pro and make it in this league. So I had great teachers coming up. So I just felt like that was my biggest, I guess, handicap, not handicap, my biggest help in the league was having those guys, having those good veteran teammates to just show you the way and show you how to be a professional, show you how to take care of your body and show you how to be the best player / Raven you can be.
You came from Missouri Southern. I'm not really familiar with Missouri Southern, to be quite honest.
Yeah, D2 school, small school, Joplin, Missouri. Yeah,
that's it. So tell me about the culture shock, if you will, of coming to the NFL from such a small school like that.
Well, let's start with the culture shock coming from St. Louis to a small school. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a big city boy. But then going down to Joplin, Missouri, just seeing how much slower it is, how much more peaceful it is. I started listening to country music right away. But other than that, man, I mean, it was just a great place to be for me. I feel like it was the perfect spot for me because it was big enough to where you still had things to do. You could still find fun, but small enough to where you couldn't get into too much trouble. And I feel like for me, that's what I needed. Just, be focused on football and focus on, my dream.
Yeah. And then when you come to the NFL from Missouri Southern.
Yeah. And then when I came to NFL from Southern, it was just a total culture shock. Coming from small school to having everything handed to you, to having workout equipment, state of the art, having meals prepped or whatever, just everything under the sun. And coming from a school whose weight facilities weren't as good, whose, anything wasn't as good as coming D2. And you're coming to a Super Bowl winning, team. Yeah. It's humbling. It was humbling. It was reassuring. Me being a small school player, getting picked 3rd round, 2 of the defending champs, on a great defense, being a defensive player. It was just so surreal. I couldn't do anything but thank God, to just finally, reach my dreams, having him in my life and having him propel me to, just kind of propel my drive to continue to just fight for, where I wanted to be in my life, growing up, it wasn't the best, of situations, even though I had a great childhood. It's just some things, wasn't there that other kids had. So me now getting into this position where I'm in the NFL now, I have no reason to tell my kids no, or we can't have, unless, they are undeserving or they weren't good in school or something like that, So that was my drive. That was my whole dream to one day look in my kid's eyes when he asked me to, do something or, for money for something to go somewhere, I don't have to say no because of financial issues. Right. It's because of, and we have the money to do and, we can do, there's not a burden on us for that. And that's what I'm most thankful for, God giving me that, the talent to, keep food in my kids' mouths, keep shoes on their feet and in their back. I mean, the sport is great and I love the game, but that's the real reason I play this game. The love is there, the passion's there. but those kids, they're forever. They're my world.
Brandon, let me ask you about the moment, because I know the adjustment to the NFL. Some guys get it. Some have a really difficult time adjusting, especially coming from D2 schools and smaller schools like a Missouri Southern. Do you remember the moment for you when you just got it and where it clicked, where you just figured it out?
I would say that moment for me clicked my second year, or even earlier, like the end of my first year. That end of my first year was, beginning of that year, I had a little foot injury. I had turf toe. So I was in and out. I finally was gone for 5 weeks, and then I came back, and I was in and out of the rotation. And I'm trying to get out there. I'm trying to prove my worth, show my worth. And it's just, I'm not in the rotation, and I'm still trying to deal with the foot injury. And it's like, when I was in college, the only time I used to say, the only time I'm sitting on the bench is if I'm getting paid for it.
Right. Yeah.
But now that saying wasn't sitting well with me, especially, me, being a competitor, being, modern day gladiators out there every Sunday, you just have that, that competitive gene in your body that just says you need to get out there and, be in it, be in the show. And that, I guess it was toward the end of the year, and it's just talking to my coach, Clarence Brooks, CB, God rest his soul. I just, like, we were in meetings got let out. I stayed behind, closed the door, locked it. I'm pretty sure he got scared and thought I was going to beat him up or something. But I just stopped and just asked him, I'm like, dude, what do I need to do? What can I do? What do you need me to do so I can get on this field, so I can play, so I can show my worth, so I can, be part of this team, feel it, and he's like, you're doing great. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. That injury did set you back, but, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. I think that was the biggest moment when he says you were doing a great job, because at that point, I did not know, me coming in and out, not knowing what I'm doing, me being a rookie. So I'm obviously getting yelled at still from coaches and stuff. So not feeling where I'm really fitting in at that point. And then as soon as he told me that, I was like, I'm okay. He says, I'm doing a great job. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep showing consistency. Just keep getting better, pretty much. And then that's what I did. Off season hit. I maybe had a week and a half or so of rest, and I flew down to Pensacola and just started training just started getting bigger, faster, stronger, and just pretty much getting at everything I got in this next year. And season 2 came, and I guess that was my breaking out season. That was my, come out season. And after that, I felt that, that first string again, that being out there. And after that, I just I'm not looking back. I can't. It feels too good. And I got kids.
Year 7, as you go into Baltimore, it's rare that players are able to stay with the same team for 7 years in this league anymore. And you've been able to do that. You signed a 5-year extension in March of 2017. Tell me about playing for the Ravens and just why it's so unique to be a Baltimore Raven, those fans, the experience, and playing in Baltimore. Coach Harbaugh, the same coach for your entire career. Tell us about what it's like to be a Baltimore Raven.
Man, to be a Raven, it's the best. Being a Raven is the best thing you could be. The facilities are great. The staff is amazing. Just everything. When you pull up to work, you are like, wow, you pull up to work ready to work, because you see how much our owner Bisciotti puts in our facilities, how he shows, how he believes in us by, his, what he does in the facility. He puts up his own money. We just rebuilt a bunch of new things. We just got a bunch of great things. And, you just see how much, this franchise, how much this, brand loves you, how much the owner loves you, how much, from top to bottom of the totem pole, you feel the love, you feel accepted, you feel like you are a part. And that's the biggest thing. And then when you step in that locker room, it's 10 times that, because that's family right there. That's who you go out, on the field with every Sunday. That's who you go to battle with. That's your war dogs. Those your brothers. You know what I'm saying? Your brothers in arms. Yeah. So as soon as you step in the facility, you feel that love. As soon as you step in the locker room, it's like you're just immersed in it, and it's for some reason, as soon as you walk through those doors, just that hatred of the Steelers just automatically, by osmosis, just goes through you. I don't know what it is, but I swear, as soon as you walk through those doors, just like, as soon as I said Steelers, you're just like, it's like, I don't know what happens. You just start like growling. I don't know. But it's just the best place to work. I mean, hearing some stories from other places in the league and hearing some just those like what, the have-nots, I guess, what people don't have, and hearing teammates or seeing people go to other teammates and they talk back and forth for how the facilities, how's this, that, and you hear that, man, Baltimore is where it's at. If you can stay in Baltimore kind of thing. I love Baltimore. The fans are amazing. We've got the best fans, I think, ever. So, I mean, they're the heartbeat of the team.
Brandon, let me ask you about your faith. We are a faith and sports podcast. That's an important part of your life. I know that. You've been a part of our conference and Pro Athletes Outreach and the increase the last few years. Your faith is important to you, your faith in Christ. Tell us where that came from. Tell us about where you started that walk with the Lord.
Well, growing up, I was always in the church. I grew up in the church, grew up in choir in the church, always sang in the choir. So I've always been around church, been baptized as a kid, just kind of did that whole thing. And it got to the point where it just felt like we did that because of grandma. We went to church, grandma went to church and all that stuff. And then it got to the point where I started getting older, obviously, more questions asked, more things being done. And now I went to PAO for the first time ever, if we fast forward a few years and started, obviously I got off the path and, coming to college, I had a real bad back injury and to the point where football was taken from me and didn't know if I was ever going to come back to playing football.
Right.
And it just got to the point where I was like sitting in the house listening to our team play on a Saturday on a podcast. And cause I had surgery in August, so I was out for that whole season and I just cried. I just bawled. Every time I just cried. I just couldn't take it anymore. Just being on the sidelines or not being at the stadium, just not being around the family, my brothers, being there to help. It just felt depressing. It felt hurtful. It just felt like everything in the book bad. That's how it felt. And it's like, man, if I could go out there and play again, I'd give it everything I got. Please, let me play again. I didn't know if I was going to be able to play. So I was working on plan B already. I was going in the fire academy, doing EMT training and all that stuff. I was working on plan B. So, and then come around, summer comes back around. We're doing summer camps about to start up and I'm at home in St. Louis and I'm at my best friend's house and I'm talking to his Uncle John. We call him Uncle John, his uncle. He's like my brother to me, my best friend. And I'm just talking to him, hey man, dude, can't wait for football season to start back up, man. Can't wait to come down and see you play. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I'm going back. He's like, he looked at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, man, I what's the point of me going back? I can't play football anymore. You know what I'm saying? Me thinking this in my head, I can't play football anymore. If I get hit again and something runs from my back, I can't walk. I don't want to live like that for the rest of my life. So I'm thinking about staying here and, just living life. And he said, Brandon, come here, talk to me. So he took me in his little office and he just like, dude, what's really going on in your head? Cause I know you love the game. He's like, I love the game, but I just don't know if the game was me. You know what I'm saying? Cause obviously this is happening. And he's like, dude, if you were laying on your deathbed, would you regret it? Would you regret not trying? Would you regret going out there and not even seeing if you can still even run, jump, swim, play? I could run, but I didn't know if I could get hit again. And I was like, every day of my life, I probably would. Yeah. And he's like, well, then there's your answer. So I looked at him. I was like, all right. And then I went back to school and I got to, and I'm just like, the whole time in my head, I'm like, God, you just it's I'm having this battle right now with God. At this whole point, it's just I thought football was my thing. I left home for this, like I thought football was going to, get me out, was going to put me on the path of, not having to worry again, and it got taken from me. So in my head, I'm having this like, why? Like, who am I, God? Like, kind of thing. Like, if I'm not meant to play football, then who am I? So, and I'm having this trouble, and I'm going down to school at the same time, and then practice, I get my pads and everything, talking to the guys. I'm feeling good. I'm talking to the guys again, but still in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know if I can even do this. I'm just going through the motions right now. Finally get to practice. People are moving around, jumping, hitting, doing all this stuff, and I'm literally trying not to touch a soul. My head coach at the time, Daryl Day, who's now one of my best friends, still call him coach. He looked at me and was like, Brandon, what are you like? What is this? Who are you? What are you doing? Get out. No, go sit on the bench because I don't know this player. This player that right here, he can't play. He can't play on my team. Let's go. You go sit on the bench. And then that's kind of where when he said that bench, that's kind of where like the only time I was sitting on the bench is if I'm getting paid for it kind of thing came about. And I'm walking to the bench. I'm taking my helmet off. And for something, I don't know what it was, something did not let me walk off that field. Like I get to the sideline, was about to step off the field, and I just stopped, helmet in hand. I'm just like, look at the sideline. And it came to me in this point, like, it's like, I felt it in my heart. And it's like, if you sit down, like if you go over there and sit on the bench, like that's like, you will forever stay sitting down. And that's what it felt like to me. Like that was like saying that was said to me. So like I'm getting a little teary eyed right now saying talk, but like,
oh man,
so like
powerful story.
The next guy's running in to take my spot, to get me out of the field. I'm walking. I'm like, I just like put my helmet on, and run back on the field. I'm like, get out. He's like, what, dude? I was like, get out. And he's like, coach is coming up, like, dude, what are you doing? I just looked at coach. I said, run the play. He's like, what? I said, run the play. I just yelled. I was like, run. He's like, all right, dude. So he ran the play. I hit the running back in the backfield. And that's the first time I ever hit something since 2 years ago,
Yeah.
Since spring ball, I guess, since my back started having problems, when I first started having problems. Spring ball was the last time I hit something before I had surgery. So,
wow.
And I'm like moving around. I'm like, okay, it felt good. And I'm still kind of scared a little bit. So I'm like, next play, boom, I get another hit. And I'm like starting to smile. And I'm starting to smile because I'm starting to feel like myself again. I'm starting to feel like it feels like a power is coming through me that I can't explain. It felt like I was getting my body back, my legs back, my back back. I felt like one last play, third time, and I'm just like, I'm back. I make another play and I'm back. And from then on, I kept that saying, the heart, every time I touched that field, I gave it everything I got, everything I had.
Man.
And
what did that do for your relationship with the Lord?
It just it solidified it for just to solidify that he's real, that he loves me. I mean, that maybe at that time I wasn't, because I always think like things happen for a reason,
Sure.
And maybe at that time, maybe I was either too ahead of myself or maybe I was too out there. I don't know, but it kind of slowed me down and like stopped me dead in my tracks, literally, and made me reevaluate and made me kind of just see what that life without football would have been, and who I guess, because I mean, obviously it's a privilege to, breathe air and to live in this, life. It's a privilege, and it's a privilege to do what we do on a daily basis. And to me, it felt like I was kind of abusing that privilege, being the big man on campus, so on and so forth, kind of having my way any way I wanted to, kind of. And it just kind of halted me and just stopped me in my tracks and just made me appreciate who God was and what God could do. you know, who he thought I was to him, you know, and that's what really hit.
Not Brandon, the football player, Brandon, the human.
Yeah, exactly. You're Brandon Williams, son of God, you're my son, you're my child, I'm here for you. At your worst, I was here for you. I brought you through that, kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's how I felt, after that moment, after that third hit, after I felt like I was back. Since then on, I was a 3-time All-American, Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah. My last 3 seasons as in college, Defensive Player of the Year and 3rd-round draft pick.
At Missouri Southern, from Missouri Southern to the NFL, man.
Yeah, now 7 years later, Pro Bowler, and going into my 7th year, saying all that and saying this, coming in my first year in the league. And after that first year, we heard about PAO, kicking and screaming all the way. Did not want to go. Me and my wife got in a fight. I think at PAO I broke a glass. And saying all that, and then ended all that, I ended up getting saved as an adult. Making that choice for myself and my salvation. To my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. As I, didn't even think I was going to cry.
It's okay.
On this, just me saying it out loud, me realizing it, and me actually, going through it again. It's just so amazing what God could do through your life with, anything, however bad you think you're going through it, however, you think it's the worst of worst, and he can use that and make it the most beautiful thing in the world. And it's just amazing.
Well, it gives you a whole new definition of the word born again, which is sort of a cliche for Christians a lot of times, but that legitimately is what happened to you, right?
It was. It was. I'm not perfect by any means. Not, I didn't just, get baptized and now I'm just like Jesus. No, not at all.
Right. I'm
not perfect by any means necessary, and I'm still working. I'm still trying, and there's a long way for me to go. But
sure.
I just, every day I look at my kids, I look at my wife, and I'm just like, eventually, I have to teach them. I have to be the man of the house, and eventually my kids are going to have questions. Eventually there's things that are going to have to be explained that I'm going to have to not explain by, what I've been through in life, or we're not explained by, some motivational speeches I saw or heard on YouTube or saw on Instagram. It's going to have to come from the word,
yes,
and it's going to have to come from my mouth through him. Through God, from my mouth, him using me as a vessel to talk to my kids. And that's what I'm striving for, to answer those questions that the world doesn't need to answer, that daddy needs to answer.
Absolutely. Brandon, thank you so much for being here on the show and being so transparent. It's really been awesome talking to you. And I wonder, this faith that you have experienced and it's real for you, tell me about taking that faith and how you carried that through your NFL career, not just through a conference like Pro Athletes Outreach, but literally being in that locker room every day, being surrounded by guys, not everybody on the team, obviously, but finding those guys that can encourage you, Bible studies. What does that look like, living that faith out as a football player?
Man, we have Wednesday Bible studies at one of the players' houses. There's a bunch of people. I hang out with everyone on the team, and I like to keep it that way. Because God hung out with everyone, Jesus hang out with everyone, the worst of the worst and the best of the best. He was hanging out with everyone. Absolutely. So, and I want to do the same thing, because I feel like everyone loves me. Everyone likes me in the team. So I like to talk to everybody, those who I can get to, those I can have time to talk to. But literally, there's been times where I've talked about God in the locker room, or I've seen guys or heard guys talked about some things that it wasn't in my best interest. So I was able to remove myself. Right. because it's one of those things where you kind of like, you know when and where to kind of like, you don't want to Bible thump by any means, especially in the locker room. But at the same time, you want to also let the people in the locker room know that God's amongst us, and Jesus is real and all that stuff. So we've had that, have had some talks.
Sure.
Our chaplain has done a great job of, keeping everyone, kind of just filled with the word, those who want to show up, obviously. But yeah, we have our, couples Bible study, players and wives. The chaplain does a men's Bible study sometimes in the mornings. Just when people get together, chaplain's room is always open to talk. It's just sometimes for me, communication. I know I've been talking your ear off, and it's going to sound weird be saying this. Communication for me is tough, especially when I'm going through things,
Sure.
because I feel like I don't want anyone to know, or if I don't want anyone to think less of me.
It makes complete sense.
So that's I guess my biggest hurdle right now to get over is just being able to freely speak, freely talk about problems, or be fully transparent to where other people might be going through this too. So it's okay to talk to someone. So I think that's been my biggest issue of, because like I said, the chaplain's had a door open policy for a long time. And there's sometimes I find myself in there, and there's sometimes I try to walk as fast as I can by it, because at that point in time, I just feel like I'm going through some things or something, it just doesn't feel like I can't talk to somebody. Probably the devil just got a hold of me and just like, hey, don't keep it to yourself, just suffer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. That's a tough thing for me. But other than that, man, everything I guess dealing with, after religion or not religion, God in the locker room or in the facility. I mean, it's awesome. All the guys, we speak about it. There's guys after having Wednesday night Bible study, come back on Thursday. Hey, man, you remember that thing? Or if you see somebody, we keep each other accountable, the ones who do go to Bible study, or we'll start talking like, hey, you living your life right over there?
Right.
Hey,
accountability,
just these little accountability things, and I get caught up in it sometimes, and they catch me. And, it's just one of those cool things to know that you've got other brothers in Christ to kind of like bounce ideas off, to lean on, to kind of just have a shoulder to cry on, or just talk to, that's the best thing. And I think that's the biggest thing right now with me and my faith, just communicating, just being able to, one, communicate with God. I mean, he knows it, but I need to come to him with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just kind of have that alone time, and finding time with 3 kids to just have that one-on-one time with your wife, have that one-on-one time with yourself, and all that. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. Absolutely. It's faith in the locker room, man. That's what it's about. But you play this tough, hard-nosed, in the trench type of position in the NFL at nose tackle. So I wonder what parallels, this might be a weird question for you, but what parallels do you see as a Christ follower and as a defender in football? Do you see parallels there?
I do feel like, because there's people every day who are, one, false prophets, or people who are trying to spin the word of God all day, every day. And, you feel like you want to be ready in that instance when that happens, or you get that person who comes to you and say, hey, what do you think about God? Or I think about this. I don't think he's this, that, and the other, whatever. So you have to be able to stand on your, 10 toes and be able to defend the word of God and defend God and Jesus Christ, So that's where I feel like it's the similarities, because, my playbook has a bunch of plays, has a bunch of it's got routes in there, it's got formations, it's got coverages, it's got, defensive stunts, it's got games, it's got whatever, blitzes, all that. The same thing with the word of God. It's got all the same, game plan scenarios for life, and to defend, what is God's, which is everything, So, I mean, I feel like that's what comes it comes parallel to each other in that form. also just being out there, being warriors for God, defending him as, our savior, to those who want to desecrate his name or just think less of him or don't think of him at all. I want to be that guy to, I'd rather be that guy to say, I believed in God, and when I passed and when I died, and if it wasn't real, even though I know it's real, then guess what? I'm always prepared.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather know who God is than not know who his God is and be like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that's my thing. I just feel like me defending my kids when they get old enough, when me defending my wife, when, no matter what, whether it's social media or trolls or whatever, anyone out there, just being able to stand on solid ground and say, I love Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior. He died for my sins. And, he is above everything. He's above everything, everyone. I am nothing compared to him.
Yeah.
I may increase him, so I may increase him, so I may decrease. I may decrease, so he may increase. That's
it. John 3:30.
The whole reason, the increased confidence. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's one of my questions. What does the increase mean to you? You just said it right there, that he might increase and that we might decrease.
Exactly. So that's what it means to me. I mean, every year I feel less of a struggle to go to PAO and more of like happy to go there. Because at the same time, devil's still around and he's real. So he tries to keep you from, that's why you have arguments before you get on the plane and while you're going to the airport at PAO. Like, he doesn't want that. So it's up to us to get in the word and defend, God and what he's in his kingdom.
Brandon, thanks so much for being here, man. This has been an amazing conversation. Let me end this with a question that we ask all of our guests here on the show. And you might have answered that in a lot of the different ways that you've shared already in our time. But what are you learning from God today? Because I believe as you enter year 7 into the NFL, as you become a new dad for the 3rd time, as your marriage continues to go strong, we learn something new from God almost every day. So what are you learning from him today as you prepare for year 7?
I feel like I'm learning right now how to be free, how to open up, how to not be ashamed. I guess if that's, Romans 1:16.
Yeah. That's it.
I just don't want to be ashamed. When I walk out of my house, I want to know who I am and I want to know what I stand for.
Brandon Williams, Baltimore Ravens nose tackle, getting ready for year 7 in his NFL journey. Lots of great years ahead of you, I'm sure, my friend, not just in the NFL, but certainly in life with this new little one welcomed into the world. Congratulations on all that you've accomplished so far. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to giving you a big old hug, although I'm a lot smaller than you, so don't hurt me, but giving you a big old hug when I see you at PAO next year. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
And many thanks to Brandon Williams, Baltimore Ravens nose tackle, for joining us here on Sports Spectrum. That's as emotional of a interview as we've done. And I'm a better person for having talked to Brandon Williams, because I think it's one thing for us to all go through difficult seasons and having these moments with connecting back to God. It's another thing to be as transparent and as emotional about it as Brandon was. And this is a big dude. This is a 6 foot, 300 pound defensive tackle with the Ravens who just let loose. And I loved it. And I'm so grateful for Brandon and thankful that he joined us here on Sports Spectrum. Give him a follow on Twitter. He's at Brandon W_66. Brandon W_66. What a great dude. And I was serious. I can't wait to see him hopefully at our PAO conference in February and give him a big hug, and just really appreciate him coming on the show. And I hope you guys will follow him, and we'll be cheering him on in the 2019 NFL season. Also, look for him, among others, in our newest edition of Sports Spectrum's magazine. If you know about Sports Spectrum, you probably know that our magazine is the foundation, the pillar of what this ministry was founded on back in 1985. And we still have the magazine going strong here in 2019. And Brandon is going to be featured in the fall edition, which also features other defensive players in the NFL who are living their faith out for Jesus. We're calling it the Defenders of the Faith, and Brandon's a part of that. So we want to encourage you to get that magazine when it releases so that you can read more about Brandon's story and others in the NFL who are defending their faith as they play professional football. Here's how you can do that. Go to sportspectrum.com. It's a really simple process. It's just $18. I mean, that's a great deal in its own right. $18 for an entire year of Sports Spectrum's magazine. And you just go to sportspectrum.com and you subscribe right now. It's really simple. So check it out. Don't miss the latest edition of Sports Spectrum's magazine. Subscribe today. Perfect time to do that with the fall and getting a little colder and football season and then eventually Christmas time. So subscribe today. Go to sportspectrum.com and get the Sports Spectrum magazine. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. Reach us on our social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at sports_spectrum. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel as well, where every podcast can be found, as well as different kind of video content, increased stories, and first-person devotional stories from these athletes can be found over at our YouTube channel over at Sports Spectrum. Thanks for listening. We love you guys. We'll see you next time with a new episode of Sports Spectrum's podcast. Have a great rest of your day.